one of the most difficult things when it comes to even setting goals for people is that they're holding on to their childhood dreams and all the things that they wanted to do and buy and go to. I want to travel the world. I want to go out to eat every single night or, at least a few times with my friends. And we hold on so tight to that vision of what we thought success was in our childhood that we're not actually accounting for who we are right now and what season we're in and what goals we also want to achieve for ourselves.
Welcome to the Journey to Launch podcast with your host, Jamila Souffrant. As a money expert who walks her talk, she helps brave journeyers like you get out of debt, save, invest, and build real wealth. Join her on the journey to launch to financial freedom in
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
If you want the episode show notes for this episode, go to journeytolaunch.com or click the description of wherever you're listening to this episode. In the show notes, you'll get the transcribed version of the conversation, the links that we mentioned, and so much more. Also, whether you are an OG journeyer or brand new to the podcast, I've created a free jumpstart guide to help you on your financial freedom journey. It includes the top episodes to listen to, stages to go through to reach financial freedom, resources, and so much more. You can go to journeytolaunch.com/jumpstart to get your guide right now. Okay, let's hop into the episode. Hey, journeyers. Welcome to the Journey to Launch podcast. Today, we have special guest, Sahirenys Pierce. She is the founder of Poise Finance and Lifestyle and creator of the High Five Banking Method. She's a millennial Latina mom and financial wellness educator with a background in finance and financial planning. She's held roles at numerous companies, and now she is teaching us how to manage our cash flow, build wealth. She's also the author of a brand new book called The High Five Banking Method, a money system you can count on. Fun fact, she has been on the podcast before, but back in May 2020. So I can't believe that's almost 6 years ago. And she's back on. So the episode number for that was episode 157. You can still listen to this one first, but if you want even more background, you can go listen to that. I'll make sure to link it in the episode show notes. So please, everyone, welcome to the podcast, Sahirenys. Hi.
Hey, Jamila, how's it going?
Good. It's so nice to reconnect with you. I know it's so funny because I always say when you're in this world, the personal finance world, or just as an online creator, your workplace is virtual. And so you have coworkers in a way. I mean, you don't work in the same company, but in the same field. And so sometimes we see each other at conferences if we go, but then it's been years since I've interviewed you, but I see you online, Instagram, but not in person, virtually. So it's nice to run into you.
I know. It feels so good. And I hope I can see you at FinCon this year. I'll be attending at Palm Springs. If you're there, I would love to reconnect because that's how I originally met you, was at FinCon at DC. Amazing.
Yes. Yeah. So anyone listening who's really new, FinCon is a personal finance conference that a lot of us go to. It's really what helped me a lot when I was building Journey to Launch and the brand. And I haven't been in a couple years, but I used to go all the time, every year. And we'll see.
All right. Keep me updated.
Yeah, but no, I'm really proud of you that, you have your first book coming out.
Yes. Super excited.
Yeah. And what I really like about what you talk about and your methods is I'm a framework girly. I like frameworks. I like being able to tell people exactly how to do something and break down steps. And I feel like you do a really good job with your High Five Banking Method, which is now the book, and how to help people logistically with their money. And so we're going to go into all those tips so people can help to get that cash flow going. But I do want to just touch upon your story just a little bit. I mentioned in the bio, you used to work for a couple companies and now you're a full-time entrepreneur, you're a mom. So can we just go back just a little bit to get a taste of your early career and how you found yourself now as an entrepreneur?
Yes. So again, I am a transfer student from a community college to a four-year institution at Cal State Northridge. And I'm someone who struggled or was a victim of the 2008 recession. My family ended up losing everything, our home, our cars, and my parents ended up divorcing. So once I started looking for a career in the finance industry, I really felt tugged towards financial planning because it felt like that aha moment where I realized we don't always have to start from scratch every single time there's a recession, a family emergency, or we lose our job. There are ways to protect ourselves. There's ways to learn about debt management, about budgeting, about investing, about, protection planning. And I felt completely in love with this. And once I got out of college and I, got into the industry, I started working at Merrill Lynch, MetLife, and Ameriprise down the line. I really wanted to help my community and friends because a lot of them also felt the same impact of '08. But I was completely shocked that when I told people the first step of financial plan is doing a budget, they thought I was cursing them out. I was saying like the B word to them. And I'm like, no, you guys, we have to figure out where you're at before we can figure out where you're going. And they were flabbergasted because, again, financial planning is a really new topic, especially for minorities, women, and young people especially. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to take it to heart. I'm just going to focus on, being the difference I want to see. So I started implementing all the financial knowledge I knew. Started budgeting, saving an emergency fund, paying off my student loans, cash flowing my wedding. And at my wedding, people started noticing that we were moving different. We were feeling very confident with our decisions. We were, emergencies were thrown at us and we were moving through them with poise. And I realized, we are doing something, but I didn't know exactly how powerful it really was until I found out during my second pregnancy that my son had a heart defect. And that's where the high-five banking method was really created, because I started managing my finances with purpose, not just because I read it in a book, not just because it made sense logically, but because I needed to gain control over my life, because there's things in life that, we're having to face that are out of our control, like our health, our livelihood. These things are out of our control. And when it comes to these difficult moments, you really need to be very purposeful when it comes to your savings. What are you saving for? How are you managing your expenses so that you can actually gain control of your life, not just, your finances, because finances are important. But, we have to be able to handle these emergencies with grace and compassion. And we need to add our emotions back into this financial planning situation.
Yeah, no, I love that. And talking about the being what you want to see, I feel like it's so important. And so many creators who go on to have brands and businesses within the personal finance space, it should start from, I believe, first changing your own finances, because then you can speak from a level of expertise, or at least someone who's been there and done that. Now, so just remind me again what you went to school for. What was your degree in?
In finance and financial planning.
Got it. And so then you did go on to work and do financial planning in corporate settings, realize you can turn around your own finances. And then at what point did you then quit your job to become a full-time entrepreneur?
I'll be honest, I actually quit before I became a full-time entrepreneur. I wanted to have my kids and I wanted to take a break from my industry. Here's the secret when it comes to financial planning, and that a lot of people don't know. This is an old man's game. So the older you are, the better. So because I was so young at that moment, I feel like I could take that break and not feel, regret later on in my journey. But once I was in my motherhood journey, I was like, you know what? I miss this. I miss sharing budgeting tips and financial planning tips and, ways so they could start building wealth and 529 plans. So when I started getting a little, missing that part of me, my husband was like, well, you could do that. You can definitely, start talking about personal finance and start your own business and share on social media your journey and what you've experienced and the lessons that you've learned. And honestly, once I created the high-five banking method, where I started saving specifically for my son's open heart surgery, once I had that experience of seeing how powerful it was to manage your money with purpose, that's when I created the high-five banking method. And when I posted it on social media, it kind of took on a life of its own. It's kind of out of my hands at that point. And it was featured on Forbes Women and all CNBC, CNET, and it kind of just exploded. And it helped me, really share my story and how I'm managing my finances with 5 bank accounts, which for some people, it seems a little excessive. But, once you start managing your finances and going through things in life, you start realizing I need more than one checking account and one savings account. I got a lot on my plate. I need to start, clearing some stuff up and start getting organized. And this framework helps people do just that.
Okay, we are going to get into it, because if you don't know what the high-five banking method is, I know you're like, well, okay, they keep mentioning it. What is this thing? So how long ago or far back did you first post about the high five banking method?
It has to be about, my son's 8 now, so about 7.5 years. So he had his surgery at 6 months. So right after there, I started posting and talking about it. So it's been a while, but it's crazy because I've always managed my finances after I got married, a little bit separated, emergency fund here, the wedding money over there, our bill money's here. But it didn't catch on to me how important it was until things aren't going perfect. Because when things are going good, any system works. Any way that you manage your finances are good. But when times are difficult, that's where you're really tested and your systems are, under heat. And you start noticing that what I'm doing, this framework actually does stand up to the test of time.
All right, so let's get into it. What is the high five banking method?
It's designed around 5 purpose-driven bank accounts that helps you manage your finances with purpose. It's designed around 2 checking accounts and 3 savings accounts. The first checking account is going to be for your bills, because at the end of the day, we all have bills. The second checking account is going to be for your lifestyle. These are going to be all the lifestyle wants that you actually want to implement into your budget without feeling bad about it. Now, when it comes to the 3 savings accounts, the first one's going to be for your emergency fund, because we all need an emergency fund, and it's the most important savings account within the system. The next one is going to be for your short-term goals. This is going to be goals that you want to accomplish that take less than 12 months to achieve. Now, when it comes to the long-term goals, this account is going to be specifically for goals that are more than a year, but less than 5 years to accomplish. This might be like wanting to purchase a home, planning a wedding, or buying a new vehicle. Those are the type of goals that you want to put in there. Once you have all 5 accounts, you can give your finances a high five because you are taking control of your money.
Okay, this sounds great because it physically, or in a banking method, puts what we talk about in the personal finance world all the time when we think about mandatory expenses, your bills, things that you need to pay that are due versus the nice to have and excessive things we like doing. So I feel like we talk about this, and then what happens is people, for the most part, they understand that. And then when it comes to implementing how to separate and save, and while this could be done with a budget, which we'll get into, and tracking and keeping track, this is an additional almost...
It's a compliment.
Adding this to a budget, right? It works so well together if you can follow this method. So let's get into now. You went over the 5 accounts, 2 checking, 3 savings. Are these accounts at the same institution? Are some of them high yield savings accounts? Can you break down a little bit the logistics of what banks or what institutions for each?
Yes. So I definitely recommend to work with more than one bank. It's kind of like what our parents used to tell us back in the day. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's what I did back in the day. I used to bank with Washington Mutual. And once I heard that they were going down, I was freaking out because I didn't know what FDIC insurance meant. And I didn't know, the casualties of not having access to your money, even if it's just for 1 hour. So you always want to make sure that you're working with more than one bank. This could be a big bank or a local credit union, but it could also be very beneficial to also work with an online bank where you can get access to high yield savings accounts, and different budgeting templates and bucket systems. All of these online banks are really implementing to helping you manage your finances a little bit easier, especially if you're younger and you're okay having, a bank that's not in a physical location. But I am very pro also having a physical location that you can go to, like a credit union, a local big bank, so you can have some variety in how you're banking. But definitely when it comes to the savings accounts, look into having high yield savings accounts because it doesn't hurt you to earn a little bit of interest, along the way of your journey, especially when it comes to your emergency fund. A lot of times, if things are going great, you don't have to pull from that. And that's an amazing accomplishment. You have to be very happy when you don't have to pull from your emergency fund. But if it can start growing a little bit at 3%, 5%, depending on what the yield is, that is an awesome opportunity for you.
Yeah. And I would say I have a high yield savings account where my emergency fund is parked. And obviously it depends on the amount you have in it. But I get hundreds of dollars a month for it being in there. And it's, quote unquote, free money, quote unquote. But it's versus if that was just in a traditional savings account earning, 0.05 or 0.005, something.
Almost 0.01. It's horrible.
0.01% versus earning 3.5 or 5%. It's such a big difference. It can mean hundreds of dollars depending on how much you have in there. So I have a couple of episodes on this. I have an episode where I convinced one of my sisters to put her money in a high yield savings account. So you can scroll back to listen to that. But very important to understand. And they are also insured and beneficial for your portfolio of accounts.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How does one decide how much to put in these accounts? So you have a paycheck, and I'm sure there are other things we're going to talk about because you have some really interesting concepts that I think will be helpful. But okay, I'm listening to this. I'm like, okay, Sai, can I call you Sai?
Yeah, of course, of course.
Okay, Sai, you know, I understand these accounts. I have one paycheck or two paychecks a month. How do I divvy it up? How much do I know to put in each account? How do I even get ahead? Because I don't even feel like I have enough to put in all five.
Yes, the first step is to actually list out all of your expenses, regardless of, if they're fun or not fun expenses that you have. And what I really recommend people to do is to, once they list out all of their expenses, start separating it. What are your actual bills and how much do they actually cost? This is actually going to be equal to your minimum cost of living. This is a number that a lot of people do not know about. And when they're trying to figure out how much to save even, right, for their emergency fund, they have no idea. Everyone says 1 month of your, 1 month at 6 months, but you have no idea what 1 month even equals. Your minimum cost of living is your 1 month. Emergency fund is your minimum cost of living and is exactly how much money you need to have in your bills checking account. Now, when it comes to your lifestyle, calculate that and you decide, okay, how much do I feel comfortable putting towards my lifestyle, like entertainment, hobbies, all of those fun things I want to do without it stopping me from contributing to my other goals and my other dreams and aspirations. Because we don't want to, sit back and be like, oh, wow, I'm now living paycheck to paycheck because I'm spending all of my money. So you really want to make sure that you are giving yourself some guardrails to protecting how much money needs to go into each account. Once you know how much money needs to go into your bills, let's say you get paid twice a month. That's a reality for some people. Your goal is to make sure that all of your income goes towards funding that account first. Not your lifestyle first, not a little bit towards your emergency fund or a little bit towards savings. Because what happens is you start sprinkling money here and there, and you get nowhere. You need to make sure that your foundation is set. Then once that foundation is set, then you can contribute to your lifestyle account. Then you can contribute to your emergency fund. Then you can contribute to your other goals with confidence. That's the key that we're trying to help people achieve here. You want to feel confident that you're not going to start putting money towards savings and then transferring it back into your bills. You're going to put money into your emergency fund and then transfer it out to pay off your credit card. That cycle is not moving us forward. So what I teach people in the book, once they have that foundation set and they're ready to start flowing their money through the accounts, you want to get 2 weeks ahead. I call this the 2-week gap, where you strategically get ahead of your bills by 2 weeks so that when the first comes around, you have that account stacked and ready to go for your bills. And then you can confidently say, okay, I'm ready to start putting money towards my lifestyle for the beginning of the month. And then a few days later, make sure that everything's still no bills are, higher than you expected them to be. Then you can confidently start transferring money to your emergency fund or your other goals. And, for a lot of people, I'm assuming you as well, you get to a point where you're so confident with this routine that you can start automating your savings. Okay, on the 5th of the month, I'm going to start automating my savings because I've been doing this and I know that I have enough money for my bills. I know I have enough money for my lifestyle and I'm not going into credit card debt or anything like that. And now I can feel more confident to take that next step. In finance, we hear so many people shouting, oh, the rich people are doing this. The rich have credit cards. They put everything on there. But we kind of need to take a step back. Let's make sure we're making sure that the foundation is set and that we are comfortable and confident with that before we start leaping forward. So that way, when we start using credit cards or, investing, we're not going backwards. We're going forwards only.
Right. It's like you want to ride a bike first, but you have never ridden before. Like, don't try to ride without holding onto the handlebars. Let's start. You can get there. I'm not saying you can't, but let's start with the basics first before you hurt yourself.
Yes.
It goes bad. But a couple of things I want to note. So this is based more on managing your cash flow, right? The in and out of what's coming in and out of your household. I know net worth, when it comes to paying off debt and building assets, is part of this. And I want to talk about that. Where would you put minimum debt payments as? Would that be your bills?
Yes, it would definitely go in your bills. You always want to make sure you're making minimum payments. Even if you're doing like the snowball method, the avalanche method, or if you're doing debt consolidation, you want to make sure you're paying the minimum always. And if towards the end, once you already have that foundation set, then you can choose how much do I want to push towards extra debt payments, and how is this going to affect my lifestyle account? How's it going to affect my savings? But you are making a decision and you are in control of it. And that's what I want more people to feel like, okay, I get to choose how much money goes towards there. I'm not just randomly guessing $100 here, $200 there. Because a lot of times that's not a strategy. You need to remember, if you're trying to move forward faster, you need to have a strategy in place.
Right. So remembering that we are just trying to understand the basics of your living expenses. So it's not to say you can't pay additional debt, but when we are thinking about cash flow, think about just the minimum amount that you need to pay for your debt and then all your expenses for that account. Then once the dust has settled, you hopefully have extra money left over. That's when you decide, okay, I want to put extra amount towards my debt here and then towards saving. Question, investing now, right? So depending on how you invest, if you work for a company where your money comes out like pre-tax before you even get your check, or post-tax, you are manually putting money towards or automatically putting money towards a Roth IRA, what does that look like? Where does that money draw from? Which account does it go into?
So the first thing, again, a lot of people, they start a job and they're like, how much do you want to contribute to your IRA or to your 401k? And they're just like, I don't know. Like, you feel like you don't really can confidently answer that question. So I want people to, again, know what their minimum cost of living is and know what flexibility they have with their excess income. And that's going to give you the opportunity to say, you know what, I can confidently say I can put away 5% and it's not going to affect my livelihood. It's not going to affect my ability to save and do the other things that are also important to me. Because a lot of people, they're like, they're just putting 1%, 2%, and they're not maximizing their opportunity because they're not sure. Or some people are putting too much towards retirement and then now they're in credit card debt because they're paying for groceries on there or gas on there because they can't actually afford their livelihood. So you definitely want to make sure that you're putting away enough that doesn't affect your actual livelihood. After that, you can put that money in your bills checking account because that's going to be your main hub. You get your direct deposit, and with a lot of big banks, you can avoid a lot of banking fees when you have direct deposit already linked in there. And you can have it set up, on the 6th of every single month. Because my bill's already taken care of and I'm ahead of my bills, I feel confident that I can send over $500 to my Roth IRA at Fidelity or Vanguard or Charles Schwab. And that gives you the confidence because you already have the money for your bills. And then if you have money for your lifestyle, you can send at the exact same time. It doesn't matter as long as you are very clear on how much you are giving yourself into each account. Because again, a lot of people, they're just putting, random numbers away and it's not helping them strategically make a plan for their retirement or for their investment aspirations.
Yes, the key words here are being intentional and understanding your cash flow and then also your lifestyle, what you want. Now, let's say I did the math and when I actually sit down, I'm like, wow, I only have enough to put into the one bill account, maybe also the lifestyle account. And by the way, you have to be honest with yourself when you're separating your bills and your lifestyle. Really be honest. Some things, while you feel like it's necessary for you to live, and they're not. And so you have to be honest and separate those things so you can understand. But when it comes to, wow, I don't feel like I have enough to put in to cover anything else that I really need. What does one do there? Or with the rising cost of living now and everything going up, how do you get ahead of that?
Yes. So there's a strategy that I have in the book called the Key Cup and Reduce. So this is a strategy that you use when you're not liking what you're seeing. You separate your bills from your lifestyle. You're not happy that you're not having enough money to save or that you don't have the flexibility that you want. And what the game plan is, I want you to go through every single line item in your bills category, for example, and you decide, what are you willing to cut, keep, or reduce? And if you're seeing some subscriptions on there that you're like, hey, we're not using, this Amazon like that. Do we need to actually have this in our budget anymore? Hey, we're not using these subscriptions for this or that. You can start making positive decisions to take control of how much you're actually spending on your bills. Because a lot of times when you put your numbers into a budgeting app or use Rocket Money or all these other budgeting templates, there's all telling you, hey, you have a whole bunch of expenses you had no idea about. You're paying like $2.99 for Apple and then another subscription for $10.99. And you start seeing that there are options on the table, but you just never knew about that you had this, these expenses coming up. So taking control of figuring out what your actual expenses are and what you're willing to modify, a lot of times that may happen in your lifestyle account. You might say, hey, I have a gym that costs $100. I might need to modify that so that I can open up more cash flow so I can feel more comfortable saying, hey, I have some breathing room. A lot of times people aren't giving themselves enough room for margin, that breathing room so that they can feel confident in their decision making. So that's what I walk people through to cut, keep, and reduce with their bills and then their lifestyle as well. And that also makes it a lot easier. What some people find out is that they can reduce how much their bills are, and that alleviates how much money you actually need to save towards your emergency fund. You can be thinking, oh, I need to save $5,500, and that's a lot of money. And then you do a cut, keep, and reduce. You're like, I only need to save $5,000. Okay, it's $500 off my plate. That gives me some margin. That gives me some breathing room. And I feel more confident that I have some control over this versus feeling out of control.
Hey, Journeyers, if you are loving this podcast, then you will love my book, Your Journey to Financial Freedom, a step-by-step guide to achieving wealth and happiness. I wrote this book for you. This book is for you if you want a clear and enjoyable path to having more money, options, and a rich life. This book is for you if you hate your commute and the fact that you need to seek approval or permission from a boss. I hated that when I worked. This book is for you if you weren't born into wealth, you didn't marry rich or win the lottery, but you still want freedom. This book is for you if you're at a crossroads, a major decision or event is imminent. Maybe a career change, marriage, starting a family. Pressures are reaching a tipping point, and the discomfort and the desire for more can no longer be ignored. And this book is for you if you find yourself zoned out at meetings, looking out the window or daydreaming about the life you truly want. So go pick up Your Journey to Financial Freedom.com so I can show you how to map out how to get from where you are today to where you ultimately want to be and enjoy the journey while you're on the path. Head over to yourjourneytofinancialfreedom.com to see where you can pick the book up. It's available on Amazon, bookshop.org, Barnes & Noble, your local bookstore, everywhere. Go to yourjourneytofinancialfreedom.com to get the book now. Talk about the emotional toll or work that it takes to do some of this stuff, because I'll just for example, right? Like I know that we have an emergency fund. Right now, we're good in terms of being able to pay for what we want, right? But if there were some kind of emergency and we had to pivot, we'd have to really buckle down. And I feel like a lot of people, they know this in theory. That's what the money's there for. That's what you're supposed to do. But a lot of it is maybe people don't want to do it. Okay, I know that I spend, let's say someone sits down and wow, I spend hundreds of dollars going out to eat. And they need to cut that down if they want to reach their goals or even to do this high-fi banking method. But there's some resistance to that. Can we talk about that kind of work that it takes to overcome the resistance or to work through that so you can get to be where you want to be?
Yes. One of the most difficult things when it comes to even setting goals for people is that they're holding on to their childhood dreams and all the things that they wanted to do and buy and go to. I want to travel the world. I want to go out to eat every single night or, at least a few times with my friends. And we hold on so tight to that vision of what we thought success was in our childhood that we're not actually accounting for who we are right now and what season we're in and what goals we also want to achieve for ourselves. When you were young, you might want to buy a mansion or a G-Wagon. And now you just want a very reliable car that's paid off. And you want a home that's reliable in a safe neighborhood with a good school districts. Your goals start modifying and changing as you proceed in your journey. So we need to give ourselves permission to kill our childhood dreams and to create new ones that actually feed us and give us more peace of mind. A lot of people are in this hunt of, I need to make more money. I need more of everything. But in reality, what we really need more of is more peace, less things on our to-do list. And when you start realizing, you know what? I might go out to dinner a few times less this month, but I'm giving myself more peace of mind because now I am saving up for my bulk buy. As a busy mom and a businesswoman, I don't have time to be, knowing if we're out of toilet paper or Windex or, dish soap. I need to have those things stocked so I can take that off of my mind and focus on what really matters. And it's the moments in life, not if, I need to go to Costco or I need to buy more things. I need to go out to dinner to relieve my stress. So many of the things that we're doing is coping mechanisms for stress relief. And what we really need to be doing is what can I do with my money to actually relieve some stress? And for me, that's knowing when I had my young kids, knowing I had enough diapers, knowing I had enough baby wipes and stuff like that. That actually relieves your stress, feeling confident that you have exactly what you need and you're not out here desperate, having to, get in the car in the middle of the night because you're out of anything that's happening in the house or you need to go buy dinner. You want to relieve your stress. And a lot of the systems that I implement, like the bulk buy, the meal planning, it helps you take that mental load off of your plate. And I think that really will help a lot of people right now.
Yeah. And reframing, because sometimes what happens too is like you think, well, if I give up on this dream, like I want to live this. I talk about knowing your guac lifestyle, and it goes from 1 to 5. 5 is the most extravagant, luxurious. You have a guacamole factory. Like that's why it's called guac lifestyle. And then level 1 is you would never buy guacamole at a restaurant. So there's a range, right? And knowing the kind of lifestyle it relates to in your life and how much you want to spend on certain things. And sometimes it can be an overall like high level. You just like living well in all areas. Sometimes there's certain things you like that you want to have quality in. And so for some people, admitting or saying, this is what I want, I think, or what I've said I always wanted, but I can't do that right now. And that makes me feel like a failure, or I'm giving up on my dreams, or why I'm worthy of that. Why can't I have it too? And I think reframing it to understanding what the opportunity cost is, because as much as we want to have it all, we just honestly, I don't think you can. Not to the degree.
Not at the same time. Not at the same
time. And not at the same level, meaning everything's on 100. Like, so I do think there's just opportunity cost in things that we want. So it's not that you can't live a good life, but you do have to make choices. And so we're framing it versus seeing it as a failure that you can't buy the nice car right now, or you can't do what the person maybe your friend is doing. Doesn't mean you're failing, because like you said, you're reframing it to say, well, this is providing me something else over here that is as much or more important.
Mm-hmm. And it definitely helps. And especially when people are considering, do you want to eat out more, or do you want to, move to a nicer neighborhood? And for a lot of people, they're going to say, hey, you know what? I actually want to move to a better neighborhood, better school districts, have a little pickleball court outside of my house, all the little fun things that, actually create your life. And it's very difficult for people to say, how can I, increase my cost of living on my bills? Like, is this actually lifestyle creep, or just upgrading your life? So I tell people, be very cautious when it comes to upgrading your life, but also accept that, yeah, I do want to live in this neighborhood. I live in San Diego, where it's an expensive city. And every day I'm making a choice. Yeah, I want to live here. This is my hometown, so I feel comfortable here. But it's a choice. It's not mandatory. To not feel bad about, making the choices that you're making that are necessary, for your livelihood and for your bills requirements. Don't feel bad about it. Make a choice, and don't sit here and be like, oh, but now I can't go out to eat as much, or oh, now I can't invest as much, or oh, I can't, travel as much. You are making a choice. And that's where the passion and value comes in, because you are saying, I value this more than that. And that's what really helps people, especially for me. My husband's a foodie. He likes to go out to eat. But I didn't value it as much. And then, once I started having more goals, he's like, you know what? I value cooking at home more. I want to buy nicer pots and pans and utensils and cutting knives. So we started investing in a different way to actually still experience the things that we actually want to experience, which isn't the, going out and dressing up. It's having a really nice meal with the people that you love. So reframing how you do things is really important as well, because, sometimes you want to go out to eat every single Friday, but your budget's not allowing it. How can you make it fun? You can do that at home. You have appetizer Fridays. That's what we do, decorate the food, make it look really nice. And the kids get involved and they're excited. They're like, hey, we're having pizza and chicken wings. And, they get into it. And I feel like there's so many other ways to live a beautiful, amazing life that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. And it doesn't stop you from living your other dreams or your other goals that you want to accomplish because, if you're trying to save for a house, that's going to be a very expensive goal nowadays, especially if you live in a big city.
Right. And some sacrifices.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I feel like just, sacrifices need to be made and not necessarily, again, reframing it from a bad way. Oh, I'm making this sacrifice and it's miserable. But feeling good about getting through something and discipline. And you have to find the joy in that.
Yes, find the little joys, the micro tweaks that you can make to your routines where you can add more of the fun in a realistic way. That could be, I might not be going out to dinner to eat, to drink, fine wine, but I'm going to try different wines from different countries and, explore a little bit every single week. Just $10, $20, nothing max, nothing too big. But just finding little ways to bring joy back into your life. And that's really what the lifestyle account is about. How can you bring joy into your life in little ways? It could be a hobby. It could be, I want to try rollerblading. I want to try swimming, something that you did. And I'm going to put it in my budget because I want to experience that. But it's not costing me $1,000. It's costing me, $100 maybe. And that's the little ways that we can, make sure that we're living a joyous life during the process, not just, once in a while. Because people are, living life, kind of rough, and then they're escaping on vacation. They're looking for coping mechanisms. We want to reduce that to healthier coping mechanisms that aren't affecting your bank account.
Right. And then making these changes. So, for example, if someone wants to set this up, they're like, okay, I kind of want to try this method out. Obviously, they should get your book, which is out now, and we'll link that. But how long do you feel like does it take? Because sometimes this could feel overwhelming for someone. Like, wait, I got to go open up 5 different accounts. I mean, hopefully you at least have 1 or 2 already. But how long you feel like it can take someone to set this all up and get going?
I think it might take 90 days only because the whole process, I make you do, a 30-day challenge. I make you verify your numbers, not just guess what they are. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't spend a lot of money. Trust me, I don't. I'm like, okay, well then how much do you spend? Have you tracked it? No, I don't do that. So I want to make sure that in every step that you feel confident and that you feel that you have, you have something that allows you to say, yes, I did double check this. And you feel like, okay, I can do this. But the first step, again, when it comes to implementing this is to use what you already have. If you already have a checking and a savings account at X, Y, and Z bank, how can you readjust those to fit into this method for you? So if you're just starting off, let's say with the first 3 accounts, which I do recommend for everyone, no matter where you're starting at, you might reassign your primary checking account as your bills account. Be like, I already get direct deposit here. I already have, bill pay set up, or my bills get automatically paid from this checking account. I'm going to rename this account my bills checking account and just leave it at that. And then the next account, your savings account, you might be like, you know what? I have some money already in here. I'm going to reframe this as my emergency fund until I feel comfortable to open up a high yield savings account. I'm going to get there, baby steps. It's all right. But I'm going to take that money and I'm going to name that my emergency fund. And you might be in the market for a new lifestyle checking account. And this might be your opportunity to check out, online banks where they don't have, these dramatic fees or minimum requirements for your checking account, where you can feel confident and say, hi, I can open up this checking account for my lifestyle. And no matter if I put $20 in there, $100 or $1,000, I'm not going to get hit with any bank fees. I have the debit card available. I know where I can go to get cash if I need to. And you start getting yourself comfortable having that lifestyle checking account. And that way, at this point, you're not really opening up 5 all at the same time. You're reutilizing what you already have, and you're opening yourself up to having a lifestyle checking account that can be your anchor of how much money you're choosing to spend every single month on your lifestyle.
So, some banks, you can open up multiple accounts when you log in. Like for me, one of the banks I use, I have multiple accounts. When I log in, I can see it. Now, would you say that depending on your willpower or discipline, so for me, I can see multiple numbers and know, okay, that money is there, but it's not to be touched. So I see that. Would you say for some people, and that it needs to be separate, or it can be, I know you want different banks, you just suggest that just for diversity, But is there a difference in the kind of a person who needs to definitely have a separate account for the spending versus bills versus someone who can see it all in one place?
I think if you are, at your level and even my level at some times where you can have all of your accounts in one place, that is fine. What I like to do instead is I have a budgeting app that I don't use for budgeting. Actually, I use it as like my money map to see where all my accounts are at, check all my transactions, make sure I'm not getting hit with fraud. Because that happens, so I'd like to do that. But when it comes to people who are starting off, I highly recommend for your first step is to actually have an emergency fund away from your regular spending accounts. The main reason I say this is because, it's really hard to start saving and seeing that number grow and not feeling that urge to pull the money. So I want people to, start not seeing that money on an everyday basis. That money is there. It's secured. You can check it once a month to make sure, you have no issues. But you need to get used to not getting tempted to pull money from that account. And it's really important to have some distance so that that money is there, but it's not available to be transferred over very easily. That's what usually happens with people. We get still in our routines. We put money to our savings and we put it back into our checking account and to our credit cards. And that's how you start draining it. So you want to start having some separation so that you build that discipline up little by little.
So I think, too, the thing that happens is you think, oh, my gosh, it's just more accounts for me to log in and think about and manage. But like you said, if you have a budgeting app, so for me, I use YNAB, where it draws in and pulls in those accounts where I can see it in one place. And then it automatically updates where I can see, like you said, okay, what's coming in and out. And you said something interesting, but I think a lot of people probably use this that way is you just look at it to map and to see that everything's okay. And or you can do budgeting with it. But that kind of connects and helps the system work. When you have like the separate banks and accounts, and then now you have a app or a kind of
money management app as well.
Tool that brings it together now where you can direct and plan out how you're spending your money. Now, one of the things that this happened before we started recording, but I want to make sure we touch upon it, is an all hands meeting. Can you explain what that is for anyone who is getting started or just wants to do this with someone or with their family?
Yes, definitely. So one of the best ways to make sure that you are maintaining this system is to do an all hands family meeting. And pretty much what this is, if you are married or if you have roommates, you kind of, get together and start going over your finances. And this is a really good way to see what worked and what didn't work in the past month. You might have more expending than you were expecting. You had to pull some money from savings. Have those conversations. But it also gives you an opportunity to look at moving forward, what's going to happen, what's coming up, for the next month. Oh, do we have birthdays we need to attend? Is it someone's birthday or anniversary dinner or Christmas holidays and things like that? So you can start rearranging your calendar based on what's actually happening. And a lot of times this gives you a better realistic viewpoint of how much money you need to set aside for fun, for your lifestyle. At that point, you might say, you know what? I was planning on buying some new cute jeans, but I got invited to this baby shower. And you know what? I'm going to wait to get my cute jeans and I'm gonna go to this baby shower and buy this beautiful gift for the mama and for the baby, because that's what I want to do. Not because I'm forced to, but because I want to do that. And it gives you the opportunity to start playing around with the numbers in your lifestyle account or even in your bills, because sometimes you might add a new bill. Your bill might go up and down. You have that forefront so you can start making adjustments earlier than later. And in the All Hands meeting, we also talk about other topics that affect our finances, but also our livelihood. Like we start planning out our meals for the month. That's something that I do. I don't have time to sit here and be like, what am I going to eat? What am I going to cook today? I need that planned out for the entire month. And that's been very helpful for me. I didn't start off doing it for the whole month right away. I did it week by week. But as you start getting comfortable having these conversations, you can start asking your spouse, hey, what do you want to eat this month? What are you interested in? What have we not had in a while? Ask your kids, hey, when do you want to eat pizza? I know you love pizza. My daughter, she'll be like, oh, I want to eat a sushi bake. And be like, okay, well, next Friday, you're going to help me make a sushi bake. And she's super excited. So it makes the whole family kind of get excited for what's coming, instead of always, talking about what's already happened or looking at the negative aspects of your life and your finances. A few other topics that we talk about in the all hands meeting is chores. Those are things that we all have to do, and they kind of slip away under us, especially when you're super busy. or also things that are coming up like appointments, dentist appointments, doctor's appointments. If your spouse is traveling for work, we all need to know what's going on so that we can start adjusting not just our finances, but our mental space as well. Be like, okay, this person's not going to be here, then I got to take the trash out. And all the mental load that happens in managing a household, not just your finances. And I feel like this is what actually reduces your stress as a person, where you're not just putting it all on you. Especially us ladies, we have so much to do. Let's put that all up for the family to do as well, not just us. We don't have to do everything. Our spouses can help, our kids can help, and even your parents can help as well. Like, hey, I know you're doing a podcast. I'll watch the kids this weekend. Awesome. Communication is key. And that's what that all hands meeting really does. It adds communication to maintaining your money system.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, and especially involving the kids and your partner. One of the things that we probably won't get to touch on here, but I think it sounds like your partner has been a true partner through the journey with you, which I think is so helpful and such an asset as you think about the journey. So if you're single, you can do this by yourself for sure. You only are, outside of other obligations, whether it's family and maybe you do have children if you're single, it makes it a little bit, harder if it's just you. But I'm just such an advocate for when you think about navigating this life with someone and especially if you're having kids with them, picking a partner, and sometimes you can choose wrong and not know certain things, but it's such an investment to how far you can go and how fast you can go. Because when you can pull things together and have meetings and pull people in to say, hey, this is your task or this is my task, and have help, it's a game changer. I couldn't imagine if, I was married and didn't have a true partner on this journey, what that would look like. So I just wanted to mention that because it's important.
No, and it also, makes your kids not see you as superwoman, see you as a real person, as a mom, as someone who is trying to do their best, and getting them involved is like, hey, I would really help if you could, if I wash the clothes, you could fold them, and they can start learning responsibilities. I have older kids now. They're starting to get a little older now. So having them have that experience and saying, hey, you know what, I can get involved in what we're eating. I can get involved in helping to do the chores. I can do my part. It might not be, they're cleaning up the living room, but they're cleaning up their room. They know the standard that we have in the home. And as a person that's really busy, you need to make sure that you have these standards done. They have to get done. You got to clean the bathrooms. You got to, cook. All these things have to happen in order for your survival and for your livelihood and your health. So you might as well take 30 minutes out the weekend, 1 month, 1 day out of the month, and figure this out instead of complaining or stressing out about it every single day of the month, because that becomes overwhelming. Again, thinking about what you're going to eat every single day, that's a lot. Once a month, that's doable. Okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. Sahirenys, please tell everyone the name of your book again, where they can get it, and more about you, where they can follow you and find your work.
Yes. So my book is called The Hi-Fi Banking Method, a money system you can count on. It's going to be sold everywhere the books are sold at: Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your local bookstores. And you guys can follow me on social media, Poise Finance Lifestyle, and also my website, thepoiselifestyle.com. I'm here if you have any questions. I do Q&As. So come on by.
I will make sure to link all of that in the episode show notes. Once again, congrats on the book. I'm so excited for you and to see more people learn about the method and implement it in their lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Don't forget, you can get the episode show notes for this episode by going to journeytolaunch.com or click the description of wherever you're listening to this. And you can still grab your Jumpstart Guide for free to help you on your journey to financial freedom by going to journeytolaunch.com/jumpstart. If you want to support me and the podcast and love the free content and information that you get here are 4 ways that you can support me and the show. 1, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast wherever you listen, whether that's Apple Podcasts, that purple app on your phone, your Android device, YouTube, Spotify, wherever it is that you happen to listen, just subscribe so you are not missing an episode. And if you're happening to listen to this in Apple Podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe there. I appreciate and read every single review. Number 2, follow me on my social media accounts. I'm at Journey to Launch on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and I love interacting with journeyers there. 3, support and check out the sponsors of this show if you hear something that interests you. Sponsors are the main ways we keep the podcast lights on here, so show them some love for supporting your girl. 4, and last but not least, share this episode, this podcast with a friend or family member or coworker so that we can spread the message of Journey to Launch. All right, that's it. Until next week, keep on journeying, journeyers.